a very crucial and important meeting. Our Citizens National Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body in our movement, in the citizens' movement. This Citizens National Assembly has been meeting. This is our 18th meeting. It meets every month, once every month, and therefore this meeting was basically an extraordinary meeting, which extraordinary meeting was supposed to deal with a number of emerging issues. I want to thank you for your indulgence. We're supposed to start earlier, but we had a lot of issues to ruminate over and decide on, and we've managed to come up with a number of resolutions that we wish to communicate to the people of Zimbabwe and to the world. As I indicated in the Citizen National Assembly, we have representatives from the 63 clusters in terms of our constitution, and these 63 clusters are represented by 2 leaders, the head and the deputy. So the members you see here present are those leaders from all the parts of our country, all the 4 corners of Zimbabwe. I know a lot of people have misunderstood and misinterpreted our eloquent articulation of who we are in ideology when we said we are a structureless structure. What it simply means is that we will not allow our opponents to dictate to us, to reveal to them what our structure is. But we have a structure. We know our structure is an entity, and that structure has been working very well for us. It is the structure that managed to produce a presidential candidate. It is the structure that managed to produce parliamentary candidates, 210 of them, and also proportional representation, representatives, as well as senators. It is the same structure that produced almost 1,900 councillors across the whole country. That structure is the structure that met today, and is the structure that reviewed the developments in the country. The first issue we discussed and touched on is the deteriorating situation in the country, politically, socially, economically, particularly when one has regard to the trip and tour ahead across the whole country. I've gone across the country. The feedback I'm getting from the people of Zimbabwe, the citizens of Zimbabwe, is that they are generally agreed that the election was fundamentally flawed, that the election was bogus, that the election violated the constitution of Zimbabwe, that the election in the various provinces did not accord with the electoral laws of our country, and did also not align with the guidelines, protocols of SADC, the African Union, and global standards. And because of that, they resolved, and they've given me, as the leader of the citizens, the mandate to make sure that I use every platform, locally, nationally, and internationally, to share this view by the citizens. And they have indicated that they do agree that there was some kind of an elected leadership, but it's an elected leadership out of a contested and disputed election. Therefore, whatever we have is a caretaker authority. A caretaker authority in central government, a caretaker authority in parliament. Yes, we won a number of seats. In fact, we swept in all the urban areas. But that doesn't make the election legitimate. Those MPs who are CCC MPs and now Zimbabwe MPs are simply caretaker MPs together with the Zanu PF1 in parliament. So we have a caretaker parliament, we have a caretaker local authorities. The mayors, the councillors, they are caretaker because it's a disputed election until a valid election is held. So even Mr. Munanganwa chooses to inaugurate himself 1,000,000 times or choose a cabinet a dozen times, he has a caretaker government that does not have the legitimacy of the people of Zimbabwe. And it is also an acknowledgement and recognition of what we have heard from the people that there's a lot of victimization, persecution, human rights abuses, particularly targeting CCC candidates. Some have been incarcerated. A case in point is our Member of Parliament, who is behind bars right now, Macon Central. He was not even at the scene of the violence, where an alleged case of violence was reported, but he has been incarcerated. Clear classic case of victimization. A case of our MP for Chirumanzu South, Cheza, who has been victimized and incarcerated on trumped-up charges. Our polling agents who participated in the election, fraud election, have had their houses burned down. Some are being deprived of food, weaponization of food in the countryside. Some have been deprived of even the opportunity to even have water services in communities. They can't use certain bowls in certain communities. Classic case of political victimization. I'm sure you read about some of our agents and those who were campaigning for us, who had to be made to pay, a fine of some goats for just campaigning for CCC. So we have all these victimization cases, including the issue of being denied input on account of having supported CCC. There are even people whose farms are being threatened to be taken just because they were seen to be associated with the CCC. One issue that tells you that even in a flawed election, we won emphatically the presidential election. We won emphatically the mayoral election. That's why we have 33 out of 34 in a flawed election. In a much more credible election, we are then going to do better, 34 out of 30. We won emphatically, even in terms of parliamentarian candidates. Yes, you may say that we have 104, as has been declared by ZEC, but we have much more. And this is why there are cases that are raised for challenge, because certain things were not done in a proper manner. It is for this reason that Zimbabwean citizens and citizens across the whole country are demanding an immediate resolution of the legitimacy crisis. But how are we going to resolve the legitimacy crisis? To lead, you need the mandate. The mandate comes from a vote. That mandate is disputed. And therefore, there has to be a political settlement, a political dialogue, immediate, to be able to deal with the issues of a disputed election. And it is in this spirit that, mandated by the citizens and by the Citizen National Assembly, we have written to SADC, the SADC Secretariat, and for the SADC Chair and the heads of state, and we have communicated the same, to resolve the dispute and stalemate in Zimbabwe. We have copied Zanu PF, because it takes two to tango. We have also reached out to Zanu PF in their various organs to say we have to resolve the issue of a disputed election. Because even if you go by the declared disputed election, it's almost a half-half or 50-50. Meaning to say that the sentiment in the country, in terms of the declared ZEC result, which is flawed, the sentiment is divided. You need the country to be in a conversation on the way forward around key reforms, politically, economically, and of course, constitutionally and legally. And even building bridges with the whole world. You can't build bridges with the whole world if there are no bridges amongst yourself. So yes, Isindebele City runs as Liageza. We are one people as a country. Our duty is to unite the nation and make sure that we find each other as a people and find a common way forward to resolve the issues where we have a fundamental dispute. In fact, when we go into an election, it's already a dialogue. Because a ballot is a form of a dialogue. When you have Chamisa there, Munanganwa there, on a ballot paper, it's a dialogue of the citizens. And the citizens must be able to give a mandate to the leader they want. So yes, dialogue is there, but it's half-hearted. Some would say, but look, why would you want that conversation? In the local authorities, the de facto government is CCC. In the central government, the de facto government, because of force, is Zanu PF. So we have a shared government, which may not necessarily be an inclusive government. And that shared government can only function better for the citizens if there is a conversation on a unanimous position on the credibility and legitimacy of a government. So we have two governments, effectively. But local government is effectively government. So yes, CCC is government, ZANU-PF is government. CCC on account of support and mandate from the people, ZANU-PF on account of cohesive apparatus, force, and other such mechanisms they display and deploy. So yes, we are going to pursue that SADC route, but we also pursue the national route, dialogue at the national level. We asked for interlocutors that are unbiased to help us find each other. We've approached bishops, the church, to also help us. But beyond that, we also have within our democratic right to have a peaceful expression of our discontent at the appropriate time. So yes, we will mobilize, but it's not a CCC issue, it's a citizens issue. So we are engaging with other like-minded citizens from the churches, from the labor unions, from the students, from the women's groups, from the journalistic fraternity, from the professional groups, accountants, lawyers, everyone who feels business, everyone who feels that Zimbabwe must be one again, and Zimbabwe must be for everyone, and Zimbabwe must have a credible and legitimate government. We are going to engage, and we'll play our part to make sure that we peacefully mobilize and we peacefully express ourselves at the appropriate time. Of course, we are also asking for the church to pray for this country, because where we are going is going to be very difficult. Prayer helps, and prayer is going to change things as we do what has to be done. Number two, we also took note of the legitimate crisis spilling over to Parliament. The CCC restates, and this is the CCC you are seeing here. Any other person who masquerades or are impositors as CCC are violating the law. And we don't have time for tomfoolery, kindergartenism, and funny games. Stay away from CCC. Hands off CCC. This is a citizens' movement. Don't just wake up one day from the street in a drunken stupor. You say, no, I'm so and so. In this movement, we don't have the position of Secretary General. We have different roles and tasks. In this movement, we don't give each other positions. We give each other tasks. And I can tell you that the champions you see here are very clear. As we were clear when we elected our candidate. Nobody can just wake up and recall our candidate. In fact, it is a ZANU-PF scheme. The reason why ZANU-PF is using certain people, particularly who purport to be CCC, we are not even in our books as the membership register. Because we have a membership register. That's why we have citizen caucus across the world. That's why when we go into the provinces, we are able to meet leaders. We have our membership registers and records. These people don't even exist there, but they want to purport. And what is so much a circus and a national shame is that Advocate Mdenda, whom I respect as a learned colleague, would know better that at law, you don't just receive communication even from the mass and you announce it. Otherwise, Musengezi would have been allowed to recall Mr. Mdenda from being speaker. But we need to have clarity in terms of who should recall who. We have a party with a leadership, and that leadership is very clear. We know who is in charge of the structures, we know who is in charge of elections, we know who is in charge of communications, we know who is in charge of fundraising. That's why we're able to raise resources from the citizens. I must thank all the citizens for making us win under difficult circumstances. We're dealing with ZANU-PF. That was so well funded. But the citizens, you did well. You funded almost $250 million for the nomination. You funded our polling agents. We've been able to even give them a token of appreciation. Courtesy of you, the citizens. Thank you. And thank you for supporting your movement. So in the context of developments in Parliament, where we have seen illegal and unconstitutional recalls, we have restated the position and resolved as a Citizen National Assembly, and I'm the leader, that as a party, as a movement, we have not recalled a single MP. We are not abnormal. We have not gone bonkers. We can't recall without due process. To recall anybody, members have their rights in terms of natural justice principles. They need to be heard. At law, we talk of what is called out partem rule. You need to be heard. If you are to receive charges, for you to cease to be a member, but the Constitution is very clear. 2 tests have to be met. Number 1, have you ceased being a member? If you have ceased being a member, the party has verified that you have ceased being a member. It has to satisfy the second test. Has the party resolved to communicate to Parliament? That test has not been met. And that's why we are saying to the Honorable Speaker, correct your error. Correct your mistake. We are writing and we've resolved to write to the Speaker to correct that mistake. Not only are we asking for that mistake to be corrected, and we've given a time frame in our communication to the Speaker, we have also said the impositors, we have mandated the party to pursue legal route, to pursue political route, but also to go to the authorities, police included, to report a clear case of fraud, impersonation, and a person who is an impositor. We have not known this person. He has never been part of us in this structure, and he has no mandate to represent us. He has no mandate to even masquerade. In fact, we are a movement. We are not an individual. No individual has the right to recall anyone. Even as a movement, when we recall, there are processes. There's a citizen caucus making a report. There is our appeal process being done, an adjudication, and of course, due process being taken. But you know, for people who are not our members, they will move around and say there is no constitution, there is no structure. Fair enough, because they don't know who we are. And they don't know that the party has organs, that the party has various structures that are governing it. We can't just wake up and do what we are doing without a regulating mechanism, which is our own statute, and it's in good and proper shape. So yes, we are asking Parliament to restore those MPs that have been recalled. And we have also communicated to them that this National Assembly is going to write, by way of a resolution, to the Speaker to deal with those issues. But we also took note of the systematic targeting of the people of Matabeleland. You know, yesterday, just before the election, it was the Bulawayo 12. They wanted to use courts to persecute them and to disqualify them. They failed, and all the 12 were voted for. Some imposter comes to say these people were imposed. The electorate have already made their determination on who they want to be a member of Parliament for Bulawayo. Who are you as an individual to say that those people were not elected legitimately? They got the highest number of votes because they are credibly and legitimately elected by the people in Bulawayo. But there is a formula to the madness. If you look at the constituents that have been targeted, these are constituents that had Zanu big wigs or big shots who have money, particularly the gold mafia in Mabuku. You look at Country Park, Tuli. You look at Bulawayo South, Modi. So they are trying to bring back Zanu-PF through the back door. Zanu-PF accept that even in a flawed election, you were flawed by the people of Bulawayo. They don't want it. So that issue of a systematic persecution and campaign against the people of Matabeleland since the 80s, we've taken note of it. And we can't allow the perpetuation of this. In fact, to dramatize how bizarre it has been, Dube Koswanda, the MP of Binga, of the Tonga people, loving Tonga people, had actually not been sworn in, but he was recalled. So they had to ask for a swearing in so that they recall him just 5 minutes after that. How do you disrespect a people? It is not the party that sponsored it, that has withdrawn him. It's just an individual who has just emerged from nowhere. So we want that issue to be resolved. But we have said, over and above this, We are also ordering all our deployees to Parliament and local authorities to disengage from Parliament and from Council. Until this issue is resolved. And when I say disengage, we have not said that they have withdrawn. They are disengaging, meaning to say that no business shall be transacted until remedy and justice is done through the mechanism that we have. In fact, we are putting on notice all key stakeholders in the country, including civil society, SADC, AU, the EU, and the international community, including the United Nations, that we have a constitutional crisis in Zimbabwe, and that we have a disputed election in Zimbabwe. And we are going to run a campaign diplomatically, politically, in a peaceful manner, in a constitutional manner, because there are remedies within the Constitution, and we are going to exhaust them. A lot of people are saying, no, you are too slow, you are not able to do this. No, take it easy. We know what we are doing. We understand the pulse of this nation. We know our influence. We know our capacity. Organizing and mobilizing is not one of our weaknesses. We have many, but I can tell you that that is not one of our weaknesses. We can organize so well and mobilize so well that we can even persuade ZANU-PF members to be part of this legitimate issue, because poverty knows no political party. In fact, any action, any peaceful expression of discontent must not be a partisan one. It must also reach out to ZANU-PF. I'm extending this invitation to people in ZANU-PF to come together. Come, let us reason together. You are also victims, because you must know that poverty does not ask for a political party card. Suffering does not know a party card. We all suffer and we are all suffering. School fees does not ask for a political party card. Medical fees never ask for a political party card. We all suffer, and for that reason, we must work together for everyone. We have also taken note of the issue of our friend, comrade, Job Sikala, Jacob Ngaruvume, and we have noted Honorable Sagandira, the MRP comrades, those who are incarcerated, the political prisoners. We are continuing apart from and beyond the measures we have put in place so far, including reaching out to the region and international partners. We are asking for an immediate release of our comrades, because we feel that they are not guilty. They must be granted bail, particularly for Job Sikala, who is not feeling well. So yes, we'll also pursue a number of measures in line with what we are pursuing to deal with the issue of the legitimacy crisis, to make sure that we deal with the issues that are obtaining in this country. Let me hasten to say, we are fortified and humbled by the support we have received from the people of Zimbabwe. Yes, the election was flawed, but there's no room for division, confusion, or other funny diversion. The key issue in Zimbabwe is how do we deal with the national issue of a disputed election. There is no dispute, there is no legitimate crisis in the CCC. The CCC is under able and effective, capable stewards at all levels. And we are proud of that. It doesn't matter how much they try to divide us. CCC is not MDC. CCC is not PDP. CCC is not all those other opposition political parties you have known. This is a citizens' movement with a different soul, a different trajectory, a different compass, and different hands. Touch not the CCC. I thank you.